Hello, you guys hear me now? Yay. Yeah, I guess I had to restart OBS. Just glitching out. How you doing, One Love Dad? Glad to see you here at the live stream. Hello, Vivid Bites. Good to see you again. How's everybody doing? I'm doing great. Just released a video. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I really enjoy the style of talking in the van because I don't have to. It doesn't always have to be some sort of like lesson. I can just talk about what's on my mind or what I think would help people understand the spiritual practices or the spiritual work. So it's cool to be able to do both. I still have ideas for, making videos with the paper and the drawings, but I also have ideas just to do talking head videos. Hello, Sky Ninja. Hello, Krishna. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, there is only so much to say that's true. Yeah, of course, Krishna. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to do live streams so that everyone has an opportunity to ask questions and we can discuss things together. It's not just you watching a video. It's really cool to be able to do both. But yeah, One Love Dad, it definitely does apply. There is only so much to say. And at the end of the day, it comes down to just putting into practice what you're learning. And I don't really want my YouTube channel to be like entertaining or entertainment. It can be interesting or fun, but the purpose of it is to help people engage in, practices or habits or learn something that will help them, have a better life, have more satisfaction in life. Krishna's saying, what's funny is if silence is the highest truth, we like to be with others in silence. What's that all about? I don't know. I think that just like how it can be easier to sense presence or, God or whatever you want to call it, the light of life when looking at an animal or a flower, you can sense its beauty much easier than looking at maybe like a piece of concrete. So I think it just comes down to like barrier of entry. And you slowly get better at embodying the truth or embodying your practice or whatever, being present without, I guess you could call crutches or, training wheels. Hello, Turkey. Good to see you. I'm glad you made it. I know you like these live streams. Hello, Leah. Good to see you. I really like the little emojis you always put. Vivid Bites is saying, regarding your last video, do you think that regrets, ruminations, obsessions, and perfectionism always come from the ego? Yes. Short answer, yes. Without the ego, when the ego is eliminated, I guess you could say eliminated, but it's more like dissolved. None of that exists. There's the peace that patheth understanding. That's what it's called, right? There's no rumination on a past that doesn't exist, and there's no obsession with a future that doesn't exist. But in the meantime, we do our best to relinquish our attention from those things. And then through grace, we may become enlightened. So Do I do my human responsibilities or tune into satsang? Decisions. Well, you could always treat this kind of like a podcast. You can just put it on in the background or have some headphones and go about your day. Do your laundry and, feed the kids and stuff. But it's probably nicer to be present with your children. Maybe while you cook dinner. Turn up my volume. I think if I get too much closer to the mic, let's see. Thank you so much, Krishna. Thank you so much for your donation. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Let me I'll turn up the gain and I'll get a little closer to the mic. And hopefully that'll help. I'm just gonna mute for a sec. Sometimes it's difficult because I'm a very soft-spoken person. I have to get out of my comfort zone to speak loudly. Mira, so happy to finally catch a live. I'm happy you caught a live too. Welcome. Glad you're here. Which state am I from? Well, I'm from Canada, but right now I'm in South Carolina. One Love Dad, I also love the community aspect of this. It's fun. It'd be cool if we could have like calls and there's like a way to have people actually jump on mic. Maybe someday. That'd be pretty cool. Thank you, Krishna, saying you are helping a lot of people. It's my little contribution. Thank you for your voice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I feel blessed to have been supported by you. Thank you. And all of you here. It's possible, the community's possible because we have a community forming, Everyone's showing up. So thank you so much. Gemini Man 25 is asking, how does one deal with low-level thinkers, people in low consciousness? I find it always funny. This is just an aside, how like questions can be framed. The word deal with, or the phrase deal with. It points to like an underlying framing or contextualization that's like inherently already negative, but that's totally natural. Like there was a point where I was quote unquote dealing with low consciousness people too, but the framing is now just witnessing. So you just witness the experience of being around other people and wherever they're at, and be mindful of what it triggers within you, because that's really the catalyst. And it kind of ties into the little to-do list today, which is choose love over fear. When you're presented with a catalyst, like, a quote-unquote low-level conscious person, or, someone who's bugging you, or, what have you, you want to try and see what about the situation is open for love rather than any aspect of fear or anger, which anger is really just a veiled fear. It's easier when you experience enough like lasting or permanent presence throughout your day. Like ever since the formless unconditioned, I count myself lucky, blessed, through grace. I can feel a diffuse peace all the time. So when I'm around other people, they're occupying the same space. They exist within that peace just as much as I do. So it's easier for me now to quote unquote deal with these low consciousness quote unquote people. But prior, it would have been engaging in active, deliberate compassion, deliberate empathy, trying to see things from their point of view, and remembering that everyone is doing the best they can with the information they have and through the lens that they see life. So it might help to recognize that not only do you project onto the world what you see, but so does everybody else. So when someone's say angry with you, they're not really angry with you or at you. They're angry at the picture they see. And the picture they see is very not often, if they're angry, it's not the truth of what's happening. It is a projection, because the anger only arises and is acted out towards a projection, if that makes sense. Let's see, scroll back up and see what everybody else is saying. Krishna is saying, meet Jagjot. Oh, it was deleted. Okay. Gemini, consciousness does not become more conscious just because it was aware of itself. We're all one and the same, untarnishable. Yes, that's true. And I was just answering the question within the contextualization of, this isn't something that you're, innately aware of all the time. But keep that in mind as you go through the practice of empathy or compassion, that really there's no fundamental difference between you two. And it gets tricky to try and explain without like an actual back and forth, because I can remember a time where I'd be like, what do you mean? There's obviously a difference between us two. They're like this and I'm like this. But you both exist within and because of this like diffuse awareness or consciousness, or what I call God. And if you sense that instead, then everything that's being presented to you, the anger, the annoyance, or whatever, their behavior, it's not actually the absolute truth. It's not real. It's almost like you're dreaming, and then suddenly you're aware that you're dreaming. You don't actually have to be mad at the dream character anymore, because it's just a dream. And then you can love them for what they truly are, which is the same thing you are, like the Christ within, or the peace of God, or the presence, the essence of their life, which you both share. Samuel, if love is over fear, but both are transient and arise in stillness, is that the state to go? I'm not sure. Oh, maybe you've added to that later on. Turkey, I have a question. Tanya, thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. And of course you're welcome. I'm glad to create a space in a community and talk about what I know might help people. So I have a question. It says, Turkey, I try almost to face my fears exactly like you advised in your video, how to face your fears, and I started getting mini panic attacks during the day. Am I on the right track? Yes, I would say you're on the right track. You're allowing up fear from the subconscious that has probably been repressed for a long time. And I've never had a history of panic attacks, and then I experienced them because I started doing the work very seriously. I've had 2 full-blown panic attacks throughout the process up until this point, and I haven't had one for a long time. But when I was facing deep-seated subconscious fears, I would do the meditation, I would sit down, I would witness. And then later on during the day, I'm at a grocery store or something. I think one time it happened, I was walking into a grocery store, and something about the sounds, or the cart where it was, and like these yellow pillars in front of the building, it triggered something from within my subconscious related to a deep-seated repressed experience. And that came up as a panic attack, but I knew it was happening, and I was able to just witness the panic attack as it happened. And I also knew that it was only coming up because I was giving my subconscious mind the opportunity to heal. And it was like, okay, you're actually allowing us to let this up and out. You're actually allowing this healing to happen. Then here you go. Like, here's more to let go of. So don't be afraid of the fear or afraid of the panic attacks. As far as I know, they're a natural, relinquishing and letting go and letting up and out process. Those reservoirs of raw fear are emptying themselves. And you might get memories, you might get flashes, like visions of what it's related to. Just stay equanimous, keep observing, take your time. If you need to sit down, drink some water, relax, ground yourself, take your time in the sense that you're not pushing too hard, because you are opening up, Pandora's box in a sense. You're opening up these reservoirs, and they will start emptying now that you've given them a chance to. Vivid Bites, do you meditate daily? How long? I do. I typically meditate daily, especially when I wake up in the morning. If I wake up early, sometimes I wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. Just naturally, I'll meditate lying in bed, and sometimes I have a meditation closet. I'll go into a small closet and meditate in there. If I am like really on the ball, I'm meditating at least an hour each sitting. But if I'm, not as serious, I guess you could say, then it's usually 15, 20 minutes. But I meditate daily in the sense that every time something arises, I'm going to do my best to sit with it and let it out, because it's an opportunity to let go of some garbage beneath the surface that I never want to deal with again. You know what I mean? Samuel, if the self collapses but awareness stays, is that still a reflection of the self if awareness is reflected in the finite mind? If the self collapses but awareness stays, is that still a reflection of the self if awareness is reflected in a finite mind? I feel like you're talking about the formless unconditioned with like a very confusing sentence. When you experience awareness in and of itself with no content, no forms, it is all there is. It is a complete experience in and of itself. It is total. It's like the picture, if you've seen the Zen ox herding pictures, it's the number 8 where it's just a blank circle. And it's a very good representation, but it is just a representation. What I like about the Zen ox herding pictures is that 8 is not the final. There's 2 more after that. So if you got to the formless unconditioned, you would hopefully recognize that that's not it. Like the unmanifest is only one side of the coin of totality. The other side is the manifest experience. Vivid Bites, do you think helicopter parenting is love, or is it driven by fear? It's definitely driven by fear. Helicopter parenting is, I feel like it's even sort of implied in the name, the phrase helicopter parenting. There's an underlying fear about whether or not your child's going to be safe at any given moment. It's sort of like it's an anxiety. It's a neurotic way to parent. And actually, I had a helicopter parent, so I know what it's like to have a neurotic parent like that. Miras is saying, also I know someone else mentioned this, but louder would be great. Oh, it still needs to be louder. I'm almost peaking. When I look at the voice input, it's like in the yellow. It's almost at the red. I'll try and be closer. It's like, is this good? There's a lot of questions this time. This is some of the most questions I've received in a row in a while. Good afternoon, Lewis. Nice to see you here. I remember your comment. I'm glad to see you. I recognize you by your profile picture. We have a question. What method or school did you learn from, or were you fully self-guided? Where would you point someone who wants to understand in the way you do? I would say I'm nearly fully self-guided, in the sense that I just read books, watched lectures, and applied what I learned. The only experience I had where I was guided or tutored in any way was when I went to a Vipassana retreat, but that was very recent. That was actually within the time frame of this YouTube channel. I think maybe it was in October. It was in October of last year, so it's very recent that I've had like some sort of formal, I guess, training or education on a meditation technique. And I do think that Vipassana is a very effective meditation technique. So if you want to start somewhere, going to a Vipassana retreat is very beneficial. If you want to gain the amount of understanding that I have, I you can read the books that I have suggested in the Discord server. I am gonna have a website soon with a list of books recommendations, and yeah, just apply, because you can learn. You can watch my videos. You can watch other people's videos. You can learn a lot of stuff, but it's only intellectual until you actually start applying it and testing it out. Really, that's where it came from for me. It was like, this is really compelling information, but I need to actually verify its validity. So if I don't actually experience what this is, then as far as I know, it's hearsay. And that's really been the the method of my practice ever since the beginning. It's like, people talk about this. We have these enlightened sages. We have Jesus Christ. We have Buddha. We have Krishna. We have all these religions. I'm going to figure out if there's actually something going on here, or if it's all, just nonsense. And that's where it began for me. And I kept true to that. Sort of apply everything and see what happens. Alpachin fan. I feel a sense of pain in my chest whenever someone online or offline comments over me. I'm trying to make it conscious, and I'm not trying to attach any stories to it. Will that fix my fear? Well, I would recontextualize the last sentence there. Will that fix my fear? Don't think about it as fixing fear as much as relinquishing your investment in the emotional energy of fear. So instead of like, I'm looking at the fear, it's broken and I need to fix it, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to let fear go. It's perfectly fine the way it is. It's just fear. I don't have to pay so much attention to it anymore. So you're not trying to fix your experience. You're not trying to fix the fear. You're letting the fear go. And through that process, you'll have less fear to experience. So yeah, when something online or in real life happens where someone's making comments about you, witness the experience from as much of the observer perspective, like step back as best you can and watch it happening sort of from a third person perspective rather than involved in the experience and reacting to the experience. You can allow the emotional reaction to come up because it's just subconscious programming. It's just a habit, and then witness it. It's like refer to yourself in third person if you have to. It's like, oh, so-and-so is experiencing fear now because, so-and-so said X, Y, and Z. And just witness and do your best, because fear, it feels extremely overwhelming. It feels very scary, but the more you practice, the more you realize there was never really anything to be afraid of. Only the fear in and of itself is so compelling. It's not actually that scary, if that makes any sense. It just takes practice, and you'll notice that, I can handle anything. I can handle any amount of fear because all I have to do is witness it. Turkey is saying exactly what happened to me. Even when I had severe anxiety when I was in high school, I never had any sort or level of panic attacks until I implemented the things you mentioned. Yeah, so me neither. I didn't have them, and then suddenly they're coming up. And I think it's just because like I said, your subconscious mind is clearing itself. With panic attacks, my teacher said, just to be yourself. Turn off your phone, just be and pay attention to the breath, allow healing to happen. Yeah, allow healing to happen. Just sit there, float in a swimming pool. That's a good, even metaphorically, just float in the swimming pool of your awareness. And yes, good job. Thank you. I understand. Ablash is saying the chest pain still gets to you. Then simply step back and witness the chest pain itself. So you're stepping back from the experience, not getting too emotionally reactive about how people are treating you. Now you can focus on, all right, this is a pain. I'm just going to witness the pain. Breathe into it. Even you can sort of say you're breathing through it or you're breathing into it. Don't be afraid of the pain. it's just a sensation. And you can even relinquish the label of pain, relinquish the label of chest. Like, see how far you can go with just experiencing what is without labels or judgments. Go a little bit at a time, and through practice, you'll find that nothing actually has to be labeled anything. It can just be happening, and you can be witnessing it. But that's sort of more advanced, you could say. It takes some practice to let go to that degree of the habits of labeling and judgment. Vivid Bites, do you think attention seeking is driven by ego? Have people ever gotten scared of your calmness? Oh yes, attention seeking is definitely driven by ego. It's a sort of vanity. And there's an underlying desire to fulfill a idea of what love is. If you get a certain amount of attention or attention from certain people, you'll be loved. But it's the ego's version of love. The love with a capital L, unconditional love, which is of God, which I like to call it, is present all the time. And you don't actually need anybody to give you attention to feel that love. It actually comes from within you. It comes within you and it expands outwards. And you notice that everyone exists within it. You know, everything exists within this love, within this field of what I call God. And has anybody ever gotten scared of my calmness? The ego in others will become nervous. It will become agitated sometimes. And it just depends on the level of presence that the other person has. Sometimes even, like when I was at the Vipassana retreat, the assistant teacher was so present, had so much presence that I felt my ego even get agitated. But it was really fascinating because we were in front of each other. He's up on his little cushions sitting there, and he calls me up or whatever, and I talked to him, and I sat in front of him, and his presence was so overwhelming that it instantly resonated with my own cultivated presence, and I felt just how much more practice he has had. And he was just lovingly looking at me, and there was a moment where my ego said, like, be afraid of this unconditional love. But I was able to say back to the ego, or like that impulse to be afraid, but there's nothing to be afraid of. And then I was able to look at him, and then there was this like incredible joy, this incredible happiness that just like permeated, and he started to dissolve. Like his physicality started to dissolve, and he was just becoming like this purple aura. And then it kind of peaked a little bit more, like it crescendoed a bit, and then I felt my ego take over, and I interrupted the experience. I allowed the ego to interrupt the experience by saying, do you feel that? It feels incredible. But if I had more practice in that environment, within that situation, I would not have allowed the ego to interrupt the intensity of that presence. But I knew it was happening as it happened, and since it happened, obviously I can talk about it. I will refrain from doing so in the future. So like every time something happens, even if you slip up, no matter how practiced you are, if you slip up, just tell yourself, I've learned from this experience and I'll do my best in the future. You're only ever doing your best anyway. So yes, there is a certain anxiety sometimes that comes from the ego, because the presence of the calm can be scary, I guess. It's I don't even know why. It's really weird. I think the ego is just afraid of like the absolute silence of God, like the absolute totality, that it's like a tiny speck. I watched a video of this woman in her car recently, and she says that she experienced Jesus Christ. And it happened suddenly at the gym. And maybe you guys seen this video because it blew up. But suddenly she was looking around the gym, and it was all like there's light emanating from everywhere. Like it was like brighter, more vivid. And she thought something was wrong with her eyes. But, she got off the treadmill, went to the change room. And when she went into the shower, suddenly in the shower, there was the presence of Jesus. There was the presence of Christ. And it's really interesting because I've also felt the presence of Christ when I was in the shower. I don't know why. Maybe there's some sort of like association with the nakedness of the human form, or the privacy of the shower that allows this to happen. But it was interesting. There's a commonality there. But she said that the purity of Christ, the purity of his presence was so strong that she couldn't help but weep and like feel like gross. And I think that that's like the ego's reaction to intense presence, to intense love, because there's a certain recognition of it. I've experienced it too. There's like a sudden recognition of everything I've ever cared about is so petty, and yet you recognize that, and then at the same time, this energy, this Christ, figure, this presence loves you unconditionally, regardless of every mistake you've ever made. Any guilt you hold is guilt you hold against yourself, and God loves you in spite of everything. God doesn't even recognize the guilt that you hold. You're the one torturing yourself, and then there's like this like intense like release. So it's probably related. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. Let's see how it's audio's good. That's great. Thank you. I don't know if I said hi to Tanya yet. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody who's showing up. Let me scroll down, see if anybody's saying hi. I know there's 21 concurrent viewers. That's like pretty good. We haven't had that. 27 now. That's super cool. And next question, Mirase saying, I was wondering why people reach manifesting material stuff as a logical conclusion from the realization of non-dual consciousness. It's a byproduct. So what's really interesting is I started off having been exposed to meditation a little bit, Buddhism a little bit, and then suddenly law of attraction and law of assumption. And I actually wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't having been introduced to law of assumption in particular. Law of attraction didn't really cut it for me, but what Neville Goddard teaches by interpreting the Bible and, the I am, like the I am is the Father. And if you go to the Father, then you can have, anything if you just ask the I amness, which is embodying the reality in which you want to experience. So I actually tested that first and realized that reality is not as solid. It's actually more malleable than we think from a materialistic point of view. If it weren't for that experience, I wouldn't have gone further. The dissatisfaction I had with the law of assumption or law of attraction stuff was it seemed like people just stopped there. It's like, great, we can manifest stuff, but I was like, why? Why does that even work? There has to be some sort of underlying foundational rule or law or something. And that eventually, of course, led me to experiencing the formless unconditioned, which is like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It all occurs and manifests out of awareness itself. And you have, because you are that awareness, you have direct access to the manifesting process, or like the cycle of manifestation dissolving, because it's happening within you. And everything is literally a mirror, like you're experiencing a physical representation of your internal world. So people do end up at this manifesting stuff. I feel like sometimes they stop short though, and they could go further. What's interesting about Neville Goddard's work is that he eventually started talking about what he calls the promise, which is what happened to him after enough practice of this manifesting stuff. If you imagine someone who does it all the time, he lectures about it, he's studying it all the time, he's trying to implement it all the time, you're going to have a radically different understanding of reality. And what happened eventually was it's as if he became more deeply awakened. I don't know if he was enlightened or anything, but he realized that all of it was occurring within him to such a degree that he stopped lecturing about, okay, you can live the life you want through manifesting. He started talking about more fundamental non-dual concepts, which is really interesting. It's like he went through this manifesting law of assumption path to the truth, which is like super cool. It's like you really can use anything to reach the summit, as long as you commit yourself to it, right? So Nathan is saying, any thoughts on principles of non-dual meditation? I don't really know what you mean by principles of non-dual meditation. simply like the pathless path people talk about, where you just simply be. It, like, I guess it kind of ties in what I just said. Any path, if you commit yourself to the practice, will culminate in progress, and maybe even eventually, if you know you have the grace, enlightenment. Passion, the feelings of shame and being attacked previously comes up whenever someone tries to say something to me or insult me. I freeze. My chest feels the pain. I'm even afraid of putting my opinions out. They're due to fear of being judged and being left behind by the group of people and not being liked. Great. So you know exactly what's going on intellectually. Now allow this to be your, you could say, armor to face this underlying energy of fear. Like, you're armored with the understanding. Now you can face it because you know what it is. It's not as scary anymore. So take that torch, take that armor, and face that fear, the energy of it, in meditation, and allow it up and let it go. Even contemplate, why am I so afraid of not being liked? Why am I so afraid of being judged? Why am I so afraid of being ostracized? And contemplate those questions one at a time, and allow what comes up to be observed by you as the awareness, and witness, almost like you're witnessing a movie. You're witnessing the character that is your ego persona tell you, this is why I'm so afraid. And you go, okay, well, you don't need to be afraid anymore. And then it will release on its own, and the more you do this work. Gaslight Television, I'm trying to join the server, but it won't let me react. My reactions appear and disappears. Oh, interesting. Okay, thank you for letting me know. I've been going through manually and just adding people the role of seeker so they can see the rest of the server, but I had no idea that it wasn't working. So I appreciate you letting me know. I'll look into that after. One Love Dad. I remember the first time I had a non-dual sense field, Simply Always Awake YouTube channel. Focuses on non-dual through the body and senses. I was just meditating about my feet outside and the idea of there being a me. Oh, I lost my spot. Where did it go? Oh, and the idea of being... I was just meditating about my feet outside and the idea of there being a me and a world completely collapsed and I was fully present. That's really incredible. That's really great. You can use the body, you can use anything. You can like stare at something even until it dissolves. You can meditate on the breath until your body dissolves. There's lots of different ways. Like even contemplating the koans or something can sometimes break this dual experience. I once had an experience where when I was doing walking meditation, focusing, walking back and forth, and then suddenly the duality between the walker and like the activity of walking and the object that walks disappeared. So the doer and what was done completely collapsed, like you're saying, and I was just experiencing a completely non-dual moment of perception. And it was kind of scary, to be honest, like to have experienced that suddenly without warning. A lot of these Satori moments, they happen without warning, right? So suddenly there was no me anymore. It was just like a happening. And I kind of want that to happen again, but I have to let go of the desire for that to happen again. Otherwise it won't happen again. The ego needs an identity to survive, which by definition is separation. Without distinction, it can't exist. Yes. The ego needs you to identify with it. The ego needs you to place your focus on it for it to survive, to put your energy and attention into its maintenance. And you can relinquish it all the way to the very end, which would culminate in this fear of the ego's basic fear of non-existence, or like oblivion. And if you relinquish that, then apparently you become enlightened, which I'm inclined to believe. Seems like forgiveness for others and oneself is the key. You're right. Always forgive. That's actually the core practice of A Course in Miracles, which I love. Forgiveness is really just another form of letting go. You're just letting go of your grievances against the world and yourself, other people, what have you. And it is extremely effective. because the ego and this notion of separation is perpetuated through grievances, through grudges, through resentments, and you can just forgive them. Vivid Bites, that was very nice hearing all your thoughts on that. I like the tangent. Okay, great. I'm glad. Kaya, maybe I will. I just gonna keep going through these questions. Tanya, I think sometimes can get more hung up on manifesting. It strengthens ego for a while until they remember to worship creator rather than the creation. Yeah, people can get hung up on it, and I was very aware of that early on, and I tried to actually like pull people out of that obsession, with the coming to be of their desires, because the desires and the manifestations are all happening within something, and you don't even have to have the desires to be happy. And I think that's what happened for Neville Goddard, was that he had so many desires come to fruition, he was able to use manifestation so effectively that he realized that, you can just be, and you'd be just as content, as if you manifested your desired reality. So it's like, you can just cut out the middleman, so to speak. You don't actually need anything to be happy. Turkey, do you think people feel the presence of different gods based on religion? Because I'm not Christian. Well, I say the word God, and I don't mean the Christian God in the popular sense. The pop culture notion of a man in the sky on a cloud that's like in cartoons or whatever. God is talked about in many, many different traditions and many different religions. And if you actually read what God is, or Brahman, or whatever you want to call it, it's always the same. And I actually don't like using other terms like source or creator or intelligent infinity, because I feel like it waters down what has historically been like it's like the God has so much, yes, it has baggage, but it has so much power or presence. There's something to it that I don't feel is right at my current stage of understanding, to just circumvent the word God on behalf of others because it makes them uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to circumvent the word God because even if it makes me uncomfortable. It's like almost like get over what makes you uncomfortable about a word, and instead strive to understand the essence and the context behind what is being communicated. Now, your question about do people experience different gods based on religion? No, they'll experience different things based on what they believe in because they're looking for it. It's almost like the manifestation stuff too. It's like they assume something exists. I made that video on archons and the prison planet concept, and the point of it was to show people that they experience the archons, they experience the prison planet, but they experience it within the same context of everything else. It's just as relative as anything else. So really the prison is your mind, and the prison is your projections. When I've experienced archons influencing my field or trying to take from me, really, if you step back even further, you notice that the common denominator is your awareness and the experience. It's always your awareness and what's happening in the awareness. You can always observe what's happening. You can always relinquish and let go of your emotional reactions or the emotional energies tied up with the experience, and then find peace behind all of that. So no matter what comes up, it's really always the same basic practices. One Love Dad, yeah, see, I have PTSD from drug-induced ego deaths, so most times that I have these high moments in sobriety, I get scared and close it off. Other times I get overwhelmed and claim it as the ego, working on just sitting with it and acceptance and letting go. It's good. Like it ties into what we just said. It always comes back to just your awareness is aware of an experience. So this PTSD or these memories of these ego deaths and the moments of fear when something happens, or the moments of vanity and claiming it as like, oh, look what I can experience. You can let go of all those things. They don't have to be all at the same time. They don't have to be all at once, but you notice that all of this is arising just like everything else, and will pass away just like everything else. But what remains is the common denominator of your awareness. Vivid bites. I think the fear of calmness can also come from predator detected instinct. Predators, tigers, lions, snakes, etc. They're always icy calm. Yeah. They move economically because they don't need to. That's an interesting perspective. That's an interesting theory, That might actually be part of it. Murase. Okay. Some experience. I started with law of assumption or law of attraction. I'm not sure which one that is. Then deep meditations for months led to spontaneous awakening, and I can no longer care about manifesting. Yeah. It's like, I feel like that's what happened to Neville Goddard as well. And, it's like, once you realize like a higher or more fundamental truth, you don't really need to rely on a relative truth anymore. Appellation. Passion, sorry. So reality is just whatever it's within you will be projected outwards. At the most fundamental sense, yes. At the most fundamental level, you're experiencing yourself right now all the time. I think this is why you would hear like someone like Ramana Maharshi say like the world you see doesn't exist. Or the non-dual perspective, like it's all one. It's really all you. It's as if you're dreaming and then suddenly you're lucid. What would you say about the dream? You would say, oh, it's all me. Like all of these dream characters, all of these experiences I'm having in the dream, they're all me. I'm just, for some reason, localized within a body as a character in the dream, but you still recognize, oh, this is all happening in my mind. And then you start flying around or you do whatever you want, whatever. You manifest some stuff instantaneously in your dream, and then you eventually wake up and you're like back in your bed. It's very, very similar. You're realizing that, oh, it's all happening within this greater context, which is also me. Now, the question of why, like I feel like people ask why after you get to that point. It's like I don't know, and I don't think many people do know. I don't even think Buddha talking about the why. It was just talking about how, like teaching how to realize it. Then after that, you can, it's up to you to know why or how, or to know the truth of it once you've reached that point. Worry about it once you reach the other shore. I think the reason that's the case with most teachers is that most like genuine teachers is because they don't want you to get distracted. They want you to focus on the work so that you actually make progress, you could say. Lewis saying, is the experience of watching your thoughts as the observer any different if it comes from a stress-induced dissociative episode, even if you draw similar conclusions from it? It depends on the experience of the dissociation. It depends on are you witnessing the dissociation? Are you witnessing the stress? Are you witnessing whatever arises because of the different context in which you are observing? So say I started dissociating right now. I would be watching myself dissociating, watching myself talk. And I would still be doing the practice of observing from the awareness point of view. But then go one step further and you can just be the awareness that everything's happening within. And then that's when you might get that point where you collapse the doer and what is done, where there actually is no observer, there actually is no thing to observe, it's all just happening. And that's something very rare. As far as I'm experienced with it, it's only happened once, unless you count the formless unconditioned. But during manifest experience, it's only happened once, where the doer and what was done was collapsed, and there was only happening. Realize. Why should people be in relationship? What's the point? I feel like you've brought this up before, or was it somebody else? There's been a question consistently now about why should people be in relationship? What's the point? It's a really interesting question, because you're asking like, what's the point of anything? Like, just ask, what's the point of anything? What's the point of eating a sandwich? To keep your body alive. And it's like, what's the point of keeping my body alive? I don't know. You tell me. Why do you want to keep your body alive? Why do you want to be in a relationship? These are all things on the relative level of experience. You can use everything that you're experiencing as a vehicle for spiritual practice, as a vehicle towards the end of enlightenment, if that's your goal. Maybe your goal though is unconditional love, which I think is more practical and sustainable, and you can experience unconditional love in this lifetime without worrying about some sort of lofty, hard to quantify enlightenment state. If we just focus on being loving all the time, enlightenment may come of its own and you don't need to worry about it. So, what's the point of being in a relationship? To love them, to love yourself and love the other person. What's the point of eating a sandwich? To love your body and take care of it. So, the point of this experience is to be as loving as possible. If you're looking at it from a practice point of view, if you're looking at it from an absolute point of view, the point of anything is itself. Like, there's no point in being a cat. The cat is just a cat. The essence of the cat is its point. It doesn't need an intellectual reason to be a cat. Neither do you. You don't need an intellectual reason to be. You just are. And choose where you want to operate from. If whatever is easier for you. Because like you'll be hung up on this question forever. If you're the same person who's been asking, you'll be hung up on this for a long time. If you're always asking, why should we be in relationships? It'll sort of be like a thorn in your side all the time. Intellectual agony. It's kind of like being compulsively thinking about like what's the point of life all the time. And I been there, done that. You sort of have to let go of these intellectual hamster wheels. Krishna, I heard peaceful relationships is a measure to spiritual progress. Is this true? Relationships I hear from my teacher are the measure to me in progress. Definitely a peaceful relationship is a measure of your spiritual maturity, your emotional maturity, your progress on the path, because you're able to disengage from any ego reactivity. And if a relationship is not peaceful, it's because you're two egos engaging with the other's ego and playing these ego games. I said in my video just prior to the one I just released that if my wife and I get into like a little back and forth or something, it's always from the ego's point of view. And then we like always just end up laughing at it. You can't really take it seriously. It's almost really, really fun. It's really fun. It's really funny and it's really fun to witness the ego like have an opinion or have a problem with something. It's like a toddler throwing a tantrum, It's I don't know, it's really funny. Henry is asking, how can I know if God exists? Well, you can know that God exists by becoming silent and present and relinquishing your attention from anything that's distracting you from the present moment, because God is the present moment. God is felt in the present moment, is experienced in the present moment. So if you want to know God experientially, then you would have to relinquish all attention from anything that isn't the present moment. Vivid bites. I mean, it's like the big dogs don't bark. They're calm. They're also the ones that actually can do something to you. The chihuahuas just all bark. So when you sense icy calm, your lizard brain is probably like alert. That could be true. That sounds like a pretty good explanation to me. Like the ego is the survival mechanism. It is, our animal nature. It's all our repressed, caveman stuff. It's the monkey that was swinging from the trees, and now it's part of our experience as human beings with a fully developed and developing prefrontal cortex and this sort of spiritual aspect. So it totally makes sense that the ego would be frightened by the calm and associate it with some sort of like imminent threat. Maybe the why is so the one can have an experience of other, to be with another, even if it's an illusion. Yeah, that's one of the popular takes on it. It totally could be. It seems to make sense. I think that it's like, a child. Imagine, Krishna is usually depicted as a child a lot of the time. Now imagine childhood Krishna playing with his action figures out in a sandbox, and because he's a god, because he is God, he's able to imbue each action figure with its own sense of self. And he's just having fun. So it's kind of like maybe you're just a child having fun with your action figures, but your action figures are convinced that they are the action figures and not you, just pretending to be the action figures. You know what I mean? So it's a similar thing. Like maybe he's just having fun. One Love Dad, can you give a brief summary or explanation of the different stages or levels you speak of beyond the doer, the collapse of ego, the collapsing of doer, formless unconditioned, just happening, so I can learn your language better? Oh wow, I didn't know that it wasn't sort of uh, able to be inferred through conversation or like my videos. Wow. So different levels, stages, beyond the doer, collapsing of ego, collapsing of doer, formless unconditioned. Well, the formless unconditioned I can talk about because it's very distinct. It is like if you were going to use a Dr. Hawkins scale of consciousness, it would be at a roughly 850 on that scale. And maybe I can pull it up actually. Let's see. Dr. Hawkins. But it would be at 850, and it's technically within the, I guess, field of enlightenment. And if you were to use the Zen ox-herding pictures, it would be picture number 8. It's basically every form is dissolved into the formless, and there is no experience of manifest reality anymore. It just is awareness. It's complete and total. It's infinite. There is no end. There is no beginning. It just is, and you are it. And it's talked about in Buddhism. It's talked about, I think that it's actually what would be called nirvana, because nirvana means extinguishing. You'd be extinguishing the experience of manifest forms and just be sort of like this void. So it's called the void. It might be nirvana as far as I'm aware. It could be, I know it's called the unconditioned or the formless unconditioned. And that's a really high state, but it's not, you could say like you could go into samadhi, very, very high samadhi, which is a state of consciousness where you just reside in the formless unconditioned. And apparently a lot of Buddhists can get stuck there because of a misinterpretation of Buddhist teachings where he's left out God. He's left out like a primordial, fundamental, unconditional love. So when you relinquish everything, including love, even God's love or the presence of God or the presence of unconditional love in experience, you would end up at the formless unconditioned because there is no thing there. So it's also termed no thing. No mind, no thing, no self. And apparently, as far as I know from Dr. Hawkins' work, there are lifetimes where you can end your life in the formless unconditioned and just spend a lot of time there and then come back into a human existence or incarnation because you still haven't figured out the ultimate reality, which is God, like God realization, not just the formless unconditioned. I did find the map, so let's see. And then let's see, what else was there? Open image, there we go. So if I switch, is this one? Yeah, so you can see the enlightenment level is it technically starts at 700, but apparently within popular culture, according to this scale, enlightenment is usually interpreted at 600. But at 850 apparently is the formless unconditioned. So it's like a very, very high samadhi. It's a very high satori or revelation or experience. And I know it only happened, quote unquote, to me because of grace, because of karma, like because I had the karmic propensity to actually experience it. Does that mean like people aren't going to experience if they practice? I don't think so. I think that if you could always at any point tip the karmic scale or set up enough potential for something to happen, and it will happen without warning, without forewarning. You'll just experience a revelation, and it could be something like the formless unconditioned. Now, the collapsing of the ego, like, I only use that term because somebody else used the term. I think it might have been you, I'm not sure. But the collapsing of doer versus what is done, that experience, I'm not sure where it would land on this scale, but the doer versus done experience happened within manifest forms. So like the awareness became synonymous with the experience itself. There was no person doing walking meditation. There was no experiencer. It was just awareness, but there were still manifest forms. It's almost like the same thing as awareness, but only unmanifest, so the formless unconditioned. It's almost like the other side of the same coin. It's very hard to describe. Extremely hard to describe. I don't know how else I'd be able to describe it. I would say it's even, no, you know what? There's no way to describe it. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is the scale. And let's see if anybody's saying anything right now. Well, One Love Dad saying, formless unconditioned is not yet God. I just don't think I've been close enough to distinguish the language. So everything is God. Everything is occurring within God. The formless unconditioned would be an experience. The way that I understand it, it's like a deep-seated belief in that the ultimate reality is no thing. So you would strive towards no thing by relinquishing all attention from all forms in all their forms. So like any aspect of identity, any aspect of thought, feeling, experience, you would be relinquishing completely. And then you may experience the unconditioned, the formless unconditioned, which would be the void, quote unquote, the place in which awareness is the only thing and there are no manifest forms. It's the formless. That still is occurring as awareness. And your awareness, as I said in the video about God is within you, your awareness is due to God. Your awareness is of God. It is given to you, quote unquote. You are the awareness. It is God itself. Like your awareness is given to you, so to speak, by God. So it's still occurring within God, but you may not realize that because you believe that, quote unquote, this is all there is. I am all there is. I am the void. I am awareness. Where's God? You know, and that was my experience. It's like, where's God? I thought God was supposed to be at the end of the road, you know? But it was a belief system. It's a belief in that if I negate my attention from absolutely everything, then I'll experience nirvana or whatever. I'll experience, you know, enlightenment. But it was still just a momentary blip within God itself, just like everything else. Like if it's transitory, then it's not God. God is happening all the time. God is what we are within and sustained by, what we are a part of. And you can sense God while dualistic. You can sense God while experiencing manifest forms through God's expression of love, beauty, divinity. And the more you focus on that, the more you would rise up this scale because you're relinquishing everything below courage towards love. And apparently 540 is the level of unconditional love. It's the level of sainthood. You're basically getting closer and closer and closer to God. So like God in and of itself is unconditional love. You're happening within and by unconditional love. But everything that prevents you from experiencing that or witnessing that are just clouds. That's why we have the analogy of the clouds that are blocking the rays of the sun. If you just remove all the clouds, you would experience the sun, which has always been there. And then what's beyond that? I swear you said beyond that is just being. So I think what's beyond the unconditioned would be just, it's the non-dual. It's what everyone refers to as enlightenment, as a non-dual state of awareness or perspective. It's like, it's the thing that can't be talked about from the dualistic point of view. And the best way I can describe it is from my own like touching of it, or like dipping the toe in, or like sensing the oneness of all things. It is really like, suddenly you realize it's all a dream. Like it's all happening within you. It's all happening within you. Like when I was at the Vipassana retreat, because you have to observe noble silence. You're silent the whole time. There's so much presence that you can cultivate through that there was a point where I was meditating, sitting there on a chair, and as a leaf fell, it was falling within me. So like, that sounds insane, especially if I switch to the camera and I say it happened within me. You're like, no, a leaf didn't fall inside this body, but the body is not me and the body is not you. So when I say when the leaf fell within me, the leaf was me, it was falling through me, and it hit the ground by hitting me. And there was this like expression of like complete joy. It exploded, and it started making me cry, because it's like, shedding all of the stuff in the way of seeing how much love is available at all times, how much joy. It's like, imagine, this is what it is like. It's like, imagine you are an all-powerful, quote unquote, your potential for creation is infinite. And through this potential, you want to express. Through this potential, you express, and then through that expressing, there is so much joy in the expression. And I think humans can touch this when they create themselves, when they do art, when they sing, when they dance. They're expressing their potential for creativity, and it is joyous. So imagine God is expressing itself, and then through the expression, there is unfathomable joy, and you can witness that joy, even if you're kind of in a body, quote unquote, by relinquishing everything that would stand in its way, that would block its observation, like its experience. I don't know. I'm doing my best to describe something that if you do the work, like, everybody who is interested in this stuff is interested in it because they have the karmic, the setup, the karmic setup to have been introduced. If you were not interested in enlightenment, you would not have heard about it. You would not be in this call. You would not be listening to me talk. And because you are listening to me talk, you are karmically destined for enlightenment itself. So it's like, at some point you just kind of go, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to experience it. And when you experience it, that's why you have like Ramana Maharshi, who doesn't talk. Like, he was enlightened apparently on that scale up in the 700s, and he didn't talk, because why would you want to talk? You interrupt the joy. You interrupt. It's like when a sunset is happening in front of you, or you're looking at like this beautiful mountain vista, and then suddenly someone says like, isn't that beautiful? It's like you almost like you like interrupted the experience of the beauty by talking about the beauty. And that's what I mean by, like, if you relinquish everything, you relinquish the need to talk, you relinquish the need to ask questions, you relinquish the chatter, and then you just experience what is. And when I was doing the video in the van and I looked over at the bird, I was able to take a step back from like talking so much and then just witness the bird and what it emanates. And then focusing on the bird, focusing on what it emanates, I was able to increase my awareness of it. And then that's why I said, if I keep focusing on it, I naturally want to stop talking. It's like the body, it's like it shuts down, like it becomes overwhelmed. And apparently that's also part of it. It's called, they're called states of samadhi. People who go like catatonic because they realize God. And it's been recorded, all these mystics in history and stuff, like these yogis in India, these people who've become enlightened. So it's something that'll eventually happen if you stick to the practice. So I feel like I went on a huge tangent there. I don't know. I hope it was good. Realize is saying, I ask because relationships are complex and not being in one feels lonely. If all emotions is in the arena of ego, how healthy is it to just depersonalize these emotions from your experience? It's really difficult. I feel like realize you're coming from and this is no knock on you or anything. It's like you're coming from the frame of mind that is legitimizing the ego and its experience to a degree that leaves out an alternative. It's like what I said in the video where it's people like, you need an ego to function. If you don't have an ego, then you can't live life. It's a misunderstanding. You experience life through your awareness of it, and by becoming increasingly present, your experience of life and your awareness of life is increasingly joyous. So you can be single and loneliness can arise, and then you can just witness the loneliness, let go of the loneliness or whatever is underlying it, which is like a form of grief, a form of fear, and then go outside and look at the snail and just like feel the joy that is the snail. Like look at a leaf and its incredible, intricate cellular structure that's created these like striations, these lines, these veins, and like you can see actually blocks where the cells have created blocks within the leaf. And why are you so lonely? All around you is life. The ego is just convincing you that you need an individual person, like a human being, to be complete, but you're already complete, and your experience of life is already complete in and of itself. It comes down to like a misinterpretation, a misunderstanding, and a fixation on what the ego is telling you is important. It's like you're lonely, you're lonely, you're lonely. Meanwhile, you're in a call right now with people who are like-minded, and the speaker is talking about how beautiful life is, and the ego will say to you, yeah, but you're not doing this with a girlfriend beside you, or a boyfriend beside you, or a husband or a wife, so it's all miserable. It's like you could be staring at one of the wonders of the world, and the ego would tell you, yeah, but you're lonely, you can't enjoy anything because you're lonely, and then you fixate on that. It's like, don't fixate on it. Curious about why you think God allows natural disasters, diseases, wildfire. God does not allow anything. This is the egoification or whatever, egoification of God. God is not a person, and it's not allowing anything to happen. It's like if you had a dream, and then in the dream there was an earthquake, and you're like, I can't believe God let this earthquake happen. It's like, bro, it's your dream. It's your dream. It's like, this is reductionary. I'm reducing something ineffable down to words and using an analogy that in and of itself is difficult to use as an explanation. But it's like the best way we have at describing things. You have to let go of your egoification of God. It's not a person. It's not allowing natural disasters and suffering to take place. If you are able to step back and just observe that a natural disaster happens, and then, okay, well, that's awful. I can't believe there was a forest fire. But then you go, oh, wait, if I step back on a large enough scale, the forest fire was necessary to complete some sort of ecological cycle where the dead trees need to burn. They need to go back into their raw form of charcoal, which is just carbon that goes into the earth, and then it recycles into the life cycle again, and new growth comes. And it's like in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna talks about how, just do your dharma, just live your life and let go of attachments to everything, let go of attachments to the outcome. He showed Arjuna that when the warriors were going to go to war, they're all being chewed up in his mouth, in the mouth of God. And it's like, you could say, oh, look at how awful that is. But it's like seeing that this is all part of a grander cycle that from your puny, quote unquote, puny perspective cannot begin to fathom. And then you shake your fist at God. And it's like, there's all of this misunderstanding happening. And then you believe your misunderstanding is the truth. And this is why we have so much division. People can't get along. All these religions have different ideas of what truth is, and like they're all fighting, and we have wars and stuff. It's like it's all just a misunderstanding. It's all just not it's ignorance. That's why Buddha said the fundamental issue that human beings have is ignorance. You have a fundamental ignorance, and that's totally okay. It's like a child doesn't know any better until it learns. Human beings don't know any better until they learn. And are you substituting the word God for mindfulness? No, I'm not. Mindfulness is a practice. You can engage in mindfulness. God simply is, and you witness God through the vehicle of mindfulness. So I hope that helps. Realize I feel lonely and have a wife and 3 kids. A relationship won't necessarily fix that if it's existential. Yes, very, very true. The loneliness stems from something much deeper, a deeper emotional reservoir of either grief or fear. And the process is to sit with whatever is coming up. Like, I'm lonely because I don't have a girlfriend, or within One Love Dad's case, I'm lonely because I have an existential loneliness. Sit with that and see where it comes from through meditation and letting go. There will be layers, like an onion, of the experience of that raw emotion. And as you let them go, let them up, let them out, you'll realize deeper truths about the experience itself, until you arrive at the fundamental fear of your own oblivion, which I've witnessed. It is terrifying, it is massive, and yet it is not infinite. And it still arises within the infinite field of your own awareness. So even that can be relinquished. Have I relinquished it yet? No, because it was very big. But I observed it for as long as I possibly could. And it's really not as scary as you think. It is terrifying, but if you just observe it, you're like, wow, that is massive. That is massive. No wonder the ego is always distracting me, because it's terrified. One Love Dad. So is formless, unconditioned non-duality. I tend to use the words ego, awareness, observer, non-dual. This is why I ask about your language, since we all learn differently. Yeah, that's totally cool. Formless, unconditioned is the void state. It is an experience of non-duality, because there's no form. There's no conditioned form. That's the Buddhist language. The conditioned form is no longer present. It is formless and unconditioned. It is complete and total in and of itself, and there's nothing outside of it. You could say it's non-dual, but non-duality, and it's like, say with a capital N, non-duality in the absolute sense would be experiencing reality, manifest or unmanifest, manifest and unmanifest, complete and total in and of itself, within the self with a capital S, as God realized, as enlightened. So when they say non-duality, they're referring to this fundamental aspect, this fundamental truth that everything arises within. So you can call the formless unconditioned a non-dual experience, but the capital N non-duality that people refer to is more total. It's even more total than the seeming totality of the formless unconditioned. And if you want to learn more about that, Dr. Hawkins gets into it. He talks about it. And if it weren't for both the Buddha's teachings and Dr. Hawkins' writings, I would not have been able to integrate what had happened with the formless unconditioned. So it would help if you read some Dr. Hawkins. Specifically his book, Eye of the Eye, and subjectivity, something or other. Both those books will get into the formless unconditioned, which he calls the void. He calls it the void. I've always felt like the void is, people can misconstrue what that is, because they might like have a dream where everything's black, and they're like, oh, I must have been in the void, but it's not that. I've noticed that in my relationships, so Saha is saying, I've noticed in my relationships, whether with parents, siblings, or a partner, I tend to expect something in return. Not anything big, just to feel like a priority, or at least be considered in certain decisions, and when that doesn't happen, I feel disappointed. It's good to be self-aware of this stuff. This is things that you can relinquish. So like, for example, imagine if you did relinquish these feelings. Imagine if you did relinquish, the level of disappointment that you feel, and then you relinquish this feeling of needing to be, a priority, or feel like a priority, or feel considered. These things would never plague you again. They wouldn't arise again in that way. There might be the raw emotion of maybe fear or grief or whatever come up in a different place in a different time from a different catalyst, a different trigger, but you wouldn't feel that anymore because you've let it go, and it's no longer going to arise when you're interacting with your parents or your siblings or whatever. And just imagine how comfortable you'd be if you didn't have this issue anymore. And that's fully why I do the work. That's why I began the work and why I continue to do the work, because things still arise. And until I reach a state of unconditional love, they will continue to arise, and they will continue to interrupt that which should be an awareness of unconditional love, an embodiment of unconditional love. When I have experienced unconditional love or joy, which Dr. Hawkins calls it joy, it is very joyous. It's like, you experience it, you're like, I don't want to experience anything else. That's incredible. I just want to go back there. So, it kind of propels you, it incentivizes you to do the work. Let's see what else we got. I think I talked about this stuff already. So much. I'm sorry that I'm not caught up on the chat. One Love Dad, my whole psychedelic journey was about ego death and God realization, oneness, understanding that there is nothing else. This is all there is. What stage level is that to you in your language? I don't really know. And I feel like focusing on a level or a stage is beside the point. It would be better, quote unquote better. I mean, it would be more enjoyable for you if you just focused on the present moment and like how much you can love it. How much can you love your children? How much can you love your wife? This is why I love A Course in Miracles so much. There's a lesson or a concept in A Course in Miracles that goes, as you give, so shall you receive. So as you give love, you will receive love. And the more you give love, the more you're capable of loving, and the more love you'll receive, because the world is a mirror. As you become a loving person, you are becoming lovable. So love your children, love your wife, love your hobbies, love nature, love a bug, like you see the bug and you love the bug. Just thinking about the bug right now, I'm in love with the bug. You see a squirrel and you love the squirrel. It's beautiful. That is far more enjoyable. It's much more enjoyable to spend your life like that than worrying about what level you're at and whether or not you're going to get enlightened, feverishly trying to be enlightened. And I think that's like part of my purpose, or what I want to teach, is that let's not focus so much on the goal of enlightenment, but rather the goal of, I want to be here right now and enjoy this moment as best I can. And the best part about that is the moments just keep on coming. You can just keep on enjoying each moment as they arise. You can just keep on loving the bug. You can just keep on loving the squirrel. You can just keep on loving your partner, your wife, your husband, your children, your life. And it begins to encompass more and more of your experience. So that's why, here we go. We're going back to choose love over fear. Choose love over any other deleterious emotional state or interpretation of what's happening. How often do you experience this unconditioned joy, and for how long? It's becoming more and more. Tanya, thank you so much, by the way. I'm glad that you enjoyed the description. I'm sure of something much earlier in the conversation. YouTube BKK, how often do you experience this unconditional joy? And for how long? It's becoming more and more frequent, and the more I talk about it, the more frequent it becomes, the more powerful it becomes. For example, I was experiencing unconditional joy in the video where I'm in the van and I'm talking about the bird, and it would have made me cry because it is so powerful. It's so all-encompassing, and it's like a choice. If I go into the backyard and I there's a turtle at this house, and I bring the turtle outside and I put him on the ground. He's actually a tortoise. I put him on the ground and I watch him like walk, and I listen to the sound of his little feet like brushing against dead leaves, and they like crinkle. There is like a joy that instantly arises because it's like I crinkle leaves too. It's like my body, when I step on a leaf, crinkles a leaf. He's crinkling a leaf. Look at him go. Like, look at the beauty that he embodies just by being a turtle, a tortoise. And then he finds a clover on the ground, and he opens his little mouth and he like chomps down on it, and he starts chewing the little clover. And like, you're overwhelmed just thinking about it, just talking about it. I can feel that I could like go far enough to start crying. I could go far enough just to be like, why am I even on this live stream? I'm going to go spend time with the turtle, with the tortoise, you know? So it's whatever you can find that love in, that joy in, use it. Like, use it to increase your ability to enjoy life, and then spread that ability around to other things. First, you find it in gardening, or like you find it in walking through the forest, or you find it in, you know, your beloved wife or husband or girlfriend or boyfriend. You find it in your beloved pet, your beloved dog or cat, and you just witness how much you enjoy their company, how much you enjoy the life that they exhibit. And then you go, what if I tried to enjoy something else? You know, how much can I enjoy even looking at my own hand, just as a contemplative practice, and start moving it around to other places? You know, even though my mom or my dad or my sibling pissed me off today, can I love them in spite of that grievance, in spite of that resentment? And give it a try. Take that joy that you feel somewhere else, and just place it in the experience of something that you don't typically feel joy. And you'll realize that the joy is always available. It's always available no matter what you're doing, and no matter who you're around, no matter what's happening, no matter what your ego is telling you that you should care about. You know, whether you should be mad, or you should be anxious, you should be afraid, you should be, you know, worried, concerned about the future, you should be, you know, working harder, achieving a different goal. What are you doing wasting your time loving a turtle eating a clover? It's like, this is my life, and I'm going to live it in a way in which I am happy. And that's all the excuse you ever need. Like, I promise you, that's all the excuse you ever need to just be happy. Period. I don't need to say anything else. I spend almost every day, this is Mirase girl. I don't know how to say your full name tag. So I hope I'm not saying it wrong, but I spend almost every day alone outside of work, plus the gym, and I enjoy solitude, but it would be nice to meet other people IRL who think like we do here. Yeah, I think it's just like how you find something that you can find joy in, and then through that vehicle, you realize you can feel it in other places. It's like if we had a meetup, which would be really cool to do if we were able to meet up someday, at a physical location, like maybe do a lecture, or like teaching, like letting go, or walking you guys through it or something, or I could show you how much joy is available in person rather than just talking about it and then hoping you're going to go try it out later, you know? And it would be very beneficial, because you would be able to experience through practice deliberately and in the present moment, like someone teaching you. It's almost like hands-on, you know. It's better to, you know, actually try and fix a car with a seasoned mechanic than to just read a textbook about fixing the car and then trying it yourself. You're going to have a much better time, a much easier time, if you're with somebody who can show you and help you experience being like a effective mechanic. So in this way, an effective, present person who can experience the joy, you know? So there's no harm in actually utilizing the things that help us on the path. It's like how Buddha said, he has given us the Dharma, or the Dhamma. It is the raft in which that we use to cross from this shore of unenlightened experience to enlightenment. Once you cross over to the other shore, then you no longer need the raft. But the raft is extremely beneficial to you. It's actually necessary. If you didn't have the practices, if you didn't have Dharma, you wouldn't be able to make it to the other side. So, it's not, I think that's the danger, or the pitfall of like complete negation. It's like you don't need anything. Technically true, but unless you're already at that point, you know, let's not take off the training wheels until you've already mastered riding the bike with the training wheels. You know what I'm saying? Samuel blanked my question twice. Oh, like you asked a question and it keeps deleting it? I have no idea. I know moderation is on for lives, so it depends on what language you used in it. If you used any like negative words or anything, try and substitute them. Vivid bites. I remember in your previous live, I did the 15-minute guided meditation. After I certainly had I don't even want to talk. That's what you explained. Would you think that 90% of people give ego to the God, or which percentage would be more accurate? What you're explaining now, I realize this at 12 or earlier already. Like the people not believing in God because why would he allow this or that, thinking he's a guy in the sky. Yeah. Great answers. Okay. That's from back when I was talking about God. I'm really slow getting to these questions, I guess. How do you function day to day when you realize 90% of the world problems come from people that are low in consciousness, invest in the ego, etc.? How do you fight against not becoming cynical? Well, the cynicism is experienced by you, so the only one you're hurting is you. So the way that I handle cynicism is just not engaging in it. Something very fundamental for us at a certain point is realizing that your entire experience is subjective, and you're never going to realize an objective truth out there. Like you're never going to be able to point at something and say there is truth, that is objective, there it is, everyone can agree on it, I can measure it, it's consistent. Your experience of the truth will be entirely subjective. And this is entirely why Jesus said, you're not going to have someone say, look over there or look over here, behold, I've found the kingdom of God, because the kingdom of God is within you. It is your own experience. It is completely subjective. And until you fully accept that your reality is completely subjective, you are going to worry about this whole, there are poor people in the world, there's starving people, there's awful dictators, there's low-level consciousness people who are ruining the world for everybody. It's this is another reason why, say, Nisargadatta Maharaj said, I don't see the world you see. Or Maharaji said, the world you see doesn't exist. It's you're fixating on something that is not even real to you. It's like if I cared about right now, if I was agonizing over how there's some starving children in some far off country that's war torn and there's a dictator, it's like, it's not my experience at all right now. And from the ego's point of view, you're going to, it might be like, wow, that's so callous, that's so cold. These things are obviously happening. You're just in denial. It's like, that will be a stumbling block to your spiritual progress and your progress towards enlightenment as long as you focus on that perspective. It's difficult to reconcile the two because you have to make the jump from objective, Newtonian paradigm of understanding, like linear. It's linear, everything's materialistic, there is an objective world out there. You eventually have to let that go, and you'll make the flip into, oh, it's all subjective. It is like a dream. And I'm experiencing reality through the lens of my own projections, through the lens of my own unique karmic inheritance, the propensity for things to arise, for me personally to overcome, for me personally to subjectively let go of and experience growth through. So like everything is a catalyst, and you choose how you're going to react to those catalysts, whether it's through the ego, through fear, or it's through a higher state of awareness through love. So something that I would relinquish here is the cynicism itself and the self-inflicted guilt and responsibility for things that you have no control over whatsoever. That's part of it too, is like you have no control over how many low consciousness, quote unquote, people there are in the world and what they're doing. the more time you spend agonizing over that, the less time you get to spend your life being happy. So, and it's like, you might say, like, again, that's so cold. What about the homeless person who's starving? Okay, go feed the homeless person who's starving, and embody the presence of love and service as you do so. And if you were the homeless person who is starving, the truth would remain the same. You would relinquish all of your attachment to the experience of suffering through homelessness. It's just happening, and you are the awareness that witnesses the happening. If I ended up destitute tomorrow, do you think I'd suddenly throw everything I've been teaching, everything that I live by, everything that I care about? I would still look at a bird. If I was homeless on the street, living under a tarp, sleeping on park benches, I would still love the bird. I would still feel my own presence. That can never be taken away from you. And that's why you're able to have these ashrams with these monks or these yogis in India who have nothing but a loincloth and a pot and a tattered old blanket, and they're happier than the richest man in America. It doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter if you're suffering. Your suffering is a mind-made fixation. It's a belief in, because I don't have this, I am suffering. I am a victim. It's a belief in the victim mentality. But like the difference between a homeless man who's starving and a renunciant who gave up everything they own and begs for food, there's no physical difference. The only difference is their mental positionality or their perspective on what is occurring. So it's really funny. You can't tell a homeless person who's starving, oh great, you're fasting. This is very good spiritual work. But you can tell someone who's renounced the world, great, you're fasting. This is great spiritual work. It depends on the contextualization. It depends on your perspective, and realizing that everything is subjective. Like you can experience anything in life and have a different you could say reality, because it's your experience, because your perspective is different. I don't know if people didn't like what I was saying there, because like everyone dropped out of the live. That's so funny. We have like 8 people now. That's super cool. I've recently come to know the absolute freedom, safety. These are the best descriptions I can find. I have a subtle attachment to being an individual though. Oh well. Not like there's a time limit. Yeah, there's no time limit, Johnny. It's good to realize there's no time limit. Just do your best to be in the present and love your life. Let's see. Vivid Bites, thanks for the answer. I liked it. Good. I'm glad you liked it. We're probably going to be wrapping it up soon. I'll just kind of scan what's going on. There's a lot to read here. I don't know if you guys are having your own little conversation. Looks like Kaya and One Love Dad are. But Mirese is saying, can the most enlightened manifest literally anything? Like if a monk wanted to just mess around and find out, could they manifest 1 million to appear in their bank account just through God consciousness? Well, I think that it depends on the monk. It depends on if the monk is fully enlightened. If the monk was just Jesus Christ or Krishna or Buddha, like pretending to be a regular monk, I'm sure. I think that's why we have miracles, because they're expressions of God through physicality. It's like, God expressing through the vehicle of Jesus Christ, feeding multitudes, and Buddha doing the miracles that he's purported to have done, and Krishna being able to just see there's a story of him seeing like a pig or a cow or something, and he just like becomes the cow just because he wants to mess around and find out. Like he just wants to be the cow and try it out, but then he forgets he's the cow, and then he spends a long time being a cow. And it's I think that's like actually a funny analogy for what's happening for us. It's like it's even in the Bible where a deep sleep fell upon Adam. Like he fell asleep, but as A Course in Miracles points out, there's no mention in the Bible of Adam actually waking up. I think that in the Bible it goes something like, it's as if under a great stupor, having drunk a bunch of wine, Adam is asleep. And it's like maybe we're all asleep. Buddha was when it was asked what to refer to him as, he said, I am the one who is awoken. So you see all of these threads sort of connect, and the best you can do is just operate from these new understandings and keep doing the work, and you'll have your own realizations. So like the most enlightened, like a fully enlightened being, from what I understand, from what I've read, from all of the, different resources, yes, it seems like if you're God realized, you can just do whatever you want. But would you? It's like this, this realization negates the ego. So the ego would not be present. So without an ego, would you, quote unquote, would you be making a decision to mess with the game just cause? Like, if you're fully God realized, there's nothing you want. So the only reason a miracle would take place is in order to, in some way, carry out a karmic destined event. So in Dr. Hawkins' work, he describes how miracles happen as a byproduct of the right propensity, the right probabilities aligning, karmic probabilities within the field of consciousness. It's not actually a literal person making a decision to do something, reality breaking. It's that God is working through this individual who is a pure enough channel of awareness and God itself that it can manifest a bunch of food for a bunch of people to eat. And the reason that would happen, is because karmic propensities have aligned in such a way that this needs to happen in order to facilitate the continued evolution of the human consciousness. So it's like everything only happens through God for the purpose of the evolution of consciousness itself. So would a monk decide, I just want $1 million in my bank? Probably not, because there's no one really making the decision there. If you're enlightened already, you're enlightened. You wouldn't want for nothing. If you are the world, all of the world is you, and you own everything in it, so to speak, from this limited way to describe it. Why would you need $1 million? It's like how when I'm in a state of unconditioned joy, I don't need $1 million to be happy. So why would I care about it, Yeah, so it seems a degree of which one desires to manifest something is a measure of how far they are from true enlightenment. Yeah, it seems like that for sure. I think it's directly related. If you care so much about the manifest reality, if you care so much about forms, then you are not God realized. You're not enlightened. Hey, Luke the Crow, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Let's see what else we got. This was great. Thank you. God bless. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you so much. If you have to go, I'm really glad that you came. I'm glad that you enjoyed the live stream. Vivid Bites, have you ever gotten your IQ tested? No, I've never gotten my IQ tested. Imagine if I did. Imagine if I was like this spiritual, like this guy who's like trying to teach people like all you need is love, and like, and then I'm like, but by the way, my IQ is like, 200 or something. Like, that's really funny. Yeah. Luke. But yeah, I've never gotten it tested. If you really wanted me to, I would do it just for fun. And it'd be really funny if it turned out to be like 80, Oh, that'd be so good. Oh, this menu keeps popping up. Hold on. Okay. Luke the Crow. My man. Glad to see you here. How would you personally deal with addiction? I myself have been dealing with internet addiction for the last few years, and I would like to hear your thoughts on that again. Whenever it comes to addiction, I always approach it the same way, which would be limit your access and downregulate the habit by replacing it with another habit. So it's like you would limit your access to it. If you can completely eliminate your access to the addictive substance or whatever it is, you do so. It's going cold turkey. If you can just throw out your modem, disconnect your internet, that'll be the fastest way to deal with your addiction. If you can't do that, then you want to put as much friction between you and the internet as possible. So like turn off the computer, put the modem in a drawer, unplug it. Like, you have to do too many steps to make it worth it. Or while you're doing the steps, you realize, oh gosh, I'm about to relapse. So you don't do it, and you remember the higher goal. The most important thing about approaching an addiction is you have to have the moment where you go, enough is enough. I am going to set this goal and I'm going to be dedicated to it. Even if I do relapse, that higher goal is still always taking precedent. You basically have to reach a point where I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to suffer through this addiction anymore. And in spite of myself, I will see this through. In spite of the addiction, in spite of the habit, I will make this happen. I will kick this addiction. And you do that through letting go, through presence, through mindfulness. When the feelings of engaging with the addiction arise, you witness it and you let it go, you let it up, you let it out. You become present and you see, where is it even coming from? Why am I so addicted to this thing? And just allow that to unfold. Allow yourself to face it. Have the courage to face what you're hiding from, what you're running from through the addiction. And that, so you're limiting access, you're witnessing something when it arises, the addiction, and then you want to replace the hobby, the addiction, with a healthy hobby. So it could be working out, it could be going hiking. Every time you get the urge, you know what, I'm going to grab my car keys and I'm driving to the forest and I'm walking through the forest. I'm throwing my phone away and I'm going to get a physical map. Like back in the day, I remember having physical maps. I remember writing things down because I didn't have internet or a printer at home when I was a kid. So I was still part of that world where you went on Google or you went on wherever you found the directions and you wrote it down on a piece of paper and you followed those directions. So if your phone is a danger to you, you write down the directions to the place you want to go there and you don't bring it with you. You bring a book instead. So you need to is engage in all of these things to give yourself the best fighting chance against an addiction, no matter what it is. You're limiting access, letting go and observing and being present with the addiction as it arises, the feelings of it, witnessing what that is, allowing the deeper truth to come out. What are you running from? And replacing this habit, this addiction, with something else that's more healthy, working out, hiking, journaling, photography, something creative. I know that a lot of recovering addicts, focus on creativity. And another really good thing, if you're into it, is all of the 12-step programs, they have God as a central point. So like the serenity prayer, and there's prayers for each step, and you have to do these steps like a fearless moral inventory. So if you feel like your addiction to the internet is strong enough that approaching it through this 12-step program is necessary, like, all the power to you. It is a very, very potent program. One Love Dad, I'm not sure how to spend quality time when the time is constant overstimulation for me. It's a massive struggle since I love solitude. I thoroughly enjoy silence, and 3 littles is nigh impossible. Yeah, that makes sense. Then you would try and you'd have to find, take silence when you can, solitude when you can, and then throughout your experience, being around the littles with the chaos, you try as best you can to anchor yourself in the solitude within. And I know that it's difficult. I mean, I know personally it's difficult for me too. I talked about even in the other video that running a YouTube channel is it's not super conducive to actually living out the spiritual practices as effectively, because I'm engaging in social media, which has its own challenges. So you just, we're all doing our best, and don't beat yourself up for that. And take solitude when you can. Like, give yourself breaks and be patient, be gracious with yourself. Patix, thank you for your contribution. I'm going now. Take care. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Patix. Look, Tanya's saying something that helped me with me was being in my own center, the candle of feeling inside your body, and then focus on outside of candle of the oneness that helped me. Yeah, it's like there's a light within you, and you focus on that as your solitude, as your rock, as your foundation as you go through life. And it never leaves you. The only thing that leaves is your ability to focus on it. So it's not that that light within, that presence, that solitude within you leaves. It's that you get distracted enough that you forget it's there. So it's just practicing keeping your attention there. Savaro, nice to see you live again. Thank you. I'm glad to be live again. I'm glad to be alive, and I'm glad to be here on this live. It's good to see you. Tanya's saying I have to step away to breathe. It's always good to take those moments. Vivid Bites, is it possible to talk one-on-one? Yes, it's possible to talk one-on-one. I offer one-on-one sessions, and if you'd like to reach out to me, then you can through the link tree on the YouTube page. There's a contact form you fill out on Google, and we can go from there. All right, looks like I've caught up to the end of chat, and it's been about 2 hours. So we can wrap up now. We didn't actually do our meditation. So if you'd like to do our meditation now, Luke the Crow, I think I'm scared to confront my addiction, and I can also feel that a part of me still secretly enjoys wasting my time on pointless entertainment. Thank you for your time and your advice. Yeah. No, that's real. That's real of you. Good job being real about that. So whenever you're done, whenever you're kind of like, yeah, I'm bored of this now. I'm bored of this addiction. I'm bored of, wasting my time on pointless entertainment, then you can make the change. Savaro, I enjoy your guided meditation video. I practice longer thanks to it. Oh, that's wonderful. I got to make some more. I actually unlisted the guided meditation. I just put it in a playlist. I think that's what I'm going to do from now on, is just have the meditations in a playlist that everyone can access, but not like release them, because it it messes with the algorithm. So it's like I'd rather like reach people through the videos they actually want to watch, and then they can meditate using the playlist. You just pick one and then you meditate, So eventually I'll have a website too, and it'll all be like kind of consolidated. Well, maybe I just won't do the guided meditation today. It's up to everybody though, but it seems like One Love Dad's like, nah. No, I know you're probably busy. But I do usually read from either like the Bhagavad Gita or the Dhammapada or A Course in Miracles. So I can do that now too. Thank you so much. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you so much for being a guidance and being such a living example of peace. Thank you so much for your gratitude. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be. I feel like this has been my dream, my ambition, you could say, since I was a child. Since that moment I talked about where I, became aware. I forget the word for it. People told me there was a word for it, but I've always felt like they're supposed to be, a better way, and some examples of a better way. And I always felt like I need to help people, but I don't know how. And I finally reached a point where it's like I finally know how. Thank goodness, thank God. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm able to do this. It's very fulfilling. It's like fulfilling what my purpose is. So it's beautiful in and of itself. Sonder, yes, One Love Dad. You're the one who said it what it was, Sonder. Yeah, since that moment of Sonder, I was like, man, there's got to be something to like go against the existential grain, like the grain of the existential loneliness and the Sonder and all that. Bhagavad guitar. That's pretty funny. Name is Mira, by the way. Named after a worshiper of Krishna and spontaneously became a follower of him in my own life. That's wonderful. Yeah, it is a holy text. I wasn't gonna take offense or anything because there's no point. It's just it's a book. It's a very very good book. It's a very old and a very good book, and I suggest everyone read it. Specifically, let's see. I really like the translation. I don't know if this will be backwards, but it's by yeah, it looks like it's backwards. Eknath Iswaran. It's very good. It's he does do a foreword, or someone else does, I can't remember, but there's a foreword and then an explanation of each like sort of section, but the translation is great. Oh, I'm not. No, it's okay. I knew you were being silly. I appreciate the silliness. It's okay to be silly. I think it should be more encouraged. That's gonna be one thing about my community. We can be silly about it. The joy of life is the point, you know. And it's like, oh, my religion. Don't make fun of my holy text. Oh, great. I'm glad you have the same copy. Well, it seems like we're gonna take a random passage from the Bhagavad Gita. I'm just gonna I'll close my eyes to make it more like special, more official. Let's see what we got. Oh, we got chapter 16, the two paths. Krishna. For those of you who don't know, um, in the Bhagavad Gita, it's taking place on a battlefield. And long story short, Krishna is advising someone named Arjuna, who is a prince, throughout this ordeal. He's his spiritual advisor on the battlefield just before the battle is about to start. So Krishna is saying to Arjuna here, be fearless and pure. Never waver in your determination or your dedication to the spiritual life. Give freely. Be self-controlled, sincere, truthful, loving, and full of the desire to serve. Realize the truth of the scriptures. Learn to be detached and to take joy in renunciation. Do not get angry or harm any living creature, but be compassionate and gentle. Show goodwill to all. Cultivate vigor, patience, will, purity. Avoid malice and pride. Then, Arjuna, you will achieve your divine destiny. Other qualities, Arjuna, make a person more and more inhuman. Hypocrisy, arrogance, conceit, anger, cruelty, ignorance. The divine qualities lead to freedom, the demonic to bondage. But do not grieve, Arjuna. You are born with divine attributes. Some people have divine tendencies, others demonic. I have described the divine at length, Arjuna. Now listen while I describe the demonic. Well, we won't go into the demonic. I think the part we're supposed to read was the beginning, which is very relevant to what we were just talking about. Be fearless and pure, never waver in your determination or your dedication to the spiritual life. Give freely. Be self-controlled, sincere, truthful, loving, and full of the desire to serve. Realize the truth of the scriptures. Learn to be detached and to take joy in renunciation. Do not get angry or harm any living creature, but be compassionate and gentle. Show goodwill to all. Cultivate vigor, patience, will, purity. Avoid malice and pride. Then, audience, then everybody, Arjuna, we're all Arjuna, you will achieve your divine destiny. Great stuff. I love the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavat guitar. Can you share your mystical experiences? Well, let's see. What kind of mystical experience? I feel like that's gonna have to wait for another day. There's a lot of them, and I don't really feel like a deep inspiration to share one right now. There's nothing coming to mind. So I feel like it's either gonna be a video, because I know you asked for that, for like a video, or it's going to be the next live stream, which I plan to do these live streams every other week. I'm going to read a random part of A Course in Miracles because I love A Course in Miracles as well. So far, these are like my main two, my go-tos, is A Course in Miracles and the Bhagavad Gita. But I also love, A Course in, the New Testament and the Bible, and I have that as well. But I'm going to do A Course in Miracles now. Close my eyes, make it official. All right. Look at that, the vision of Christ. This is chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's curriculum. Part 6, the vision of Christ. Part 6, the vision of Christ. I guess text 1, I don't know how you describe it. The ego is trying to teach you how to gain the whole world and lose your own soul. Wow, it's kind of relevant to what we just read in the Bhagavad Gita. Divinity versus demonic attributes. The ego is trying to teach you how to gain the whole world and lose your own soul. The Holy Spirit teaches that you cannot lose your soul, and there is no gain in the world, for of itself it profits nothing. To invest without profit is surely to impoverish yourself, and the overhead is high. Not only is there no profit in the investment, but the cost to you is enormous. For the investment costs you the world's reality by denying yours, and gives you nothing in return. You cannot sell your soul, but you can sell your awareness of it. You cannot perceive your soul, but you will not know it while you perceive something else as more valuable. That's interesting. You cannot perceive your soul. So I think it's talking about you can't perceive your soul within dual perception through the perceptual faculties. But you will not know it. You'll not know of the soul, of your own soul, while you perceive something else as more valuable than the knowledge of your own soul. The Holy Spirit is your strength because he knows nothing but the Spirit as you. He is perfectly aware that you do not know yourself and perfectly aware of how to teach you to remember to remember what you are. Because he loves you, he will gladly teach you what he loves, for he wills to share it. Remembering you always, he cannot let you forget your worth, for the Father never ceases to remind him of his Son, and he never ceases to remind his Son of the Father. God is in your memory because of him. You chose to forget your Father, but you do not really want to do so, and therefore you can decide otherwise. As it was my decision, so it is yours. What is the difference in teachings between the two? Oh, yeah, Luke the Crow is pretty much answering your question. I just think there is a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of spiritual truth in both texts, and actually a lot of texts. So I have, the Bible. Some of the Bible I don't like though, which, is blasphemy if you're a Christian or a Catholic. But a lot of it's negative. A lot of it's depictions of God as like the egoic God, sort of like the Gnostics interpretation, which is the demiurge. So I think that the Bible is not as quote unquote pure as people wish it was, as they hope it to be or believe it to be. But the New Testament, like Jesus' teachings, I believe are reliable, and they're very good. Like if you just lived your life based on, say, the 10 Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount by Jesus, you're pretty far ahead in your spiritual practice. So there's a lot of value, especially in the New Testament. And then I have the Dhammapada as well, which is like the core of some of the basic core stuff of the Buddha's teachings. And I have the Upanishads, which I haven't read the Upanishads yet, but I do have the not Iswaran version. Luke the Crow, learn to read between the lines and think for yourself, basically. Yeah, especially with the Bible, these religious texts, maybe even the Quran. I haven't read too much of it, but there is really all of them. Like you need to, as you read, you develop a certain insight, a certain vision for what's being said. So like there's a lot of like thematic stuff in the Bhagavad Gita because it's presented as a story and it's happening within this greater epic. And then, you know, the Bible, it's like biblical language, and Jesus talks in parables. And then we have the Course in Miracles, which uses very biblical language and talks about the Father and the Son. But excuse me, it's all analogy. It's all pointing towards the same fundamental truth, just with different languaging. And I think there's something about being less literal and more thematic, more poetic, more biblical in a way that circumvents the intellect and kind of like goes straight towards the subconscious, goes straight towards the right brain aspect of the, you know, person rather than the left brain. It's, you know, you're almost the beauty of wonderful prose or whatever, the beauty of wonderful thematic writing will circumvent the intellect's propensity to just pick something apart. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. You don't really need it, as One Love Dad is saying. You can just, if you want to just focus on, you know, one book, if you want just for like the contemplation aspect, you can get like A Course in Miracles, or if that's not really your vibe, you can get the Bhagavad Gita. For example, Gandhi, he only studied the Bhagavad Gita. That was his scripture, was the Bhagavad Gita. It's not like he got really deep in other stuff. Apparently, he just used the Bhagavad Gita and lived what was said in the Bhagavad Gita, the karma yoga that's described, the devotional yoga that's described. And that's enough. You know, if you, like I said, if you just picked out the Sermon on the Mount and the commandments from the Bible and just live that, that's perfectly enough. The the books though are helpful in a sense that they give you a foundation, like One Love Dad is saying, and they give you somewhere to start from. Before you start embodying what you're learning, you're going to kind of learn as much as you can. Everyone kind of goes through this phase where they're collecting a lot of information, they're collecting a lot of stories, they're collecting a lot of teachings, and then eventually it's time to just put it into practice. There's also value in that. Luke the Crow is saying you connect dots and you see connections there you wouldn't see otherwise. You know, for me, as for my temperament personally, reading all these different religious texts, reading all these different sources, even New Age stuff, was very helpful because I was able to connect the dots. I was able to begin reading through the lines, between the lines, and noticing the deeper thread, the common thread, and the truth that they're all referring to. And then it's like, oh, okay. So they're not really separate, and there really shouldn't be arguments over what God is because it's all the same thing, and they're all trying to describe it in different ways. Username here, it's good to see you. Do you think I should push myself in my practice or just take it relaxed? I think you should go with the ebb and flow of your own um, inspiration, your own highest excitement. If you're inspired to meditate for hours a day, then allow that to unfold. Don't resist it just because you're like, oh, it's impractical or whatever. Just if you feel the urge to, I'm going to meditate for an hour this morning, then allow yourself to embody that inspiration. And if you feel like, wow, I'm really exhausted by these practices, you can take your foot off the gas pedal and just remember the core tenets of I'm not the ego, I'm the awareness. I don't have to be identified with the reactionary ego persona, but I can be identified instead, at least with the observer of what's happening, and then just relinquish the things, even if it's in retrospect. You know, meditate when you feel called to, and implement the contemplative aspect of these practices until such a time where you feel compelled or inspired to take it much more seriously and spend more time on the core stuff like meditation. And it all happens naturally, you know. You're allowed to be chill. You're allowed to be chill. You're allowed to have patience and grace with yourself. So anyway, it's I told myself that I would set a boundary that we do 2.5 hours max. So we're hitting that 2 hours and 20 minutes time now. So if there's any like final things you want to say. Basically, we have this life and we can do whatever we want, says Slayer. There's no point, and we don't have to figure out what happens after death. Well, if you did whatever you wanted, you might do things that would be deleterious to your karmic um, momentum. If you went out and started murdering people, you're not going to have a very good experience after death. So I don't think you should do whatever you want, even though you technically can. If I was being a responsible guide, I would say, yeah, don't do that. You're going to set up a bad next experience for yourself. And as a responsible guide, I would say, why not spend this life doing things that set up good experiences for yourself, both in this life and in the next experience, whether it's another physical incarnation or not. So I suggest doing things that increase your sense of happiness now, because why not? So really, if you do subscribe to that, you can do whatever you want and there's no point, then maybe you should make the point of your life to be happy. And I mean like real happiness, not like, if I go to the bank and I rob the bank, I'm going to get a thrill of adrenaline and that's going to feel like happiness. That's not real happiness, because the adrenaline wears off and you got to rob another bank. So what I mean by cultivate happiness, I mean cultivate presence, cultivate your connection with the source of your own being, cultivate connection with what I call God. And what is God, but people confuse with something else. Luke the Crow, by the way, when you mentioned my comment earlier about the being real about my addiction, what did you mean by you can just move on once you get bored of doing that? Well, you'll spend, how long you've been addicted to, pointless entertainment online, but at some point you're going, I feel like this is my experience at least, and many others, you're going to naturally outgrow it unless you are extremely apathetic and you're just going to be a bump on a log and just keep doing it even though you're suffering. There is likely going to come a point where it's just too much and you just like don't want to do it anymore. No, I can't disregard my own boundary. So even if you wanted to, we only got 9 more minutes. I'm trying to be more mindful because I need to walk the line between, being in the world and but not being of it, you know. Providing this stuff, but also like making sure that I maintain my own ability to provide. So I hope that makes sense, Luke the Crow. Like it's I don't play as many video games as I used to because I don't want to anymore. Slayer, I guess I'm just thinking about doing every little thing with the right intention or right way. Well, if you're talking about, the um, what is it? What's it called? It's in Buddhism, the right way, good works or whatever. Basically, approaching everything while keeping in mind, like what we just read in the Bhagavad Gita. Be compassionate, have goodwill towards all this stuff, and yeah, you can do everything as long as you're coming at it from this frame of mind that it's increasing the work, the propensity for the work, increasing the spreading of the truth or the word or the Dhamma, all these different ways of putting it. I forget the phrase, right mindfulness. Oh well, it's a good thing we only have like 5 minutes left. Otherwise, I'd have to know what the word was. I'm allowed to not know as much stuff towards the end. Username here. It's nice to see you again. I'm trying to practice meditating throughout the day, and I don't know if I should focus on one object or if it's fine to change the object frequently. I think as long as you stay mindful, as long as you stay present, you're able to change the object. It's like if you're walking and you're focusing on your feet, you're staying present with the moment as it's happening. But then if you focus on the way your hand is swishing or the way your legs are moving, that's still being present. So you can experiment with it and see what brings you closer to the present moment, easier or in a more sustained way. Just how deeply can you focus on the feet as you walk, and for how long? Just see how that goes. Do you need to switch it up? And if you do switch it up, maybe do an experiment where if I do it this frequently, does it interrupt my presence? If I do it less frequently, does it? Like which, play with it, see what works well for you. That's been my approach, and it's been very useful to just act like a scientist about it, and be patient and have fun. Remind yourself that it's not like you're definitely not doing anything bad by trying. You're definitely not doing anything bad by trying to be a spiritual practitioner or trying to improve or trying to let go of ego reactions and stuff. It's only good stuff. Overcome the addiction. Luke's asking again about the addiction. Do I still try to overcome this addiction? Yes. If you feel compelled to overcome the addiction, it's time to overcome the addiction. The fact that you're asking about how to do it, I think it's time to give it a shot. Otherwise, you would just be at a point in your life, maybe you remember, where you're just addicted and you didn't even care and you didn't even notice it as an addiction. But now you do care and you do notice. And so it's time, give it a shot. Yes. User name Ida. Ida. There's a lot of username ones. Username Ida. Beautiful live. Praying we all get ourselves out of the delusion. Yes. I pray that we all experience real peace, that we all experience real happiness, that we all experience the truth of our own being. Amen. Sunny Day Studio. Having moved through burnout and the loss of my previous life, I have cultivated presence but landed in a flat neutrality where even desire has eroded. How do I navigate the threshold where the old has passed but the new hasn't landed? What is required to tether to divine supply when the world is no longer moves me? Yeah, you're sort of going through the phase of despondency, which is natural. I think that my best advice for that is to try and focus on things that you find beauty in, that you find joy in. And usually I come back to the example of nature or, living creatures, animals, pets, someone you love. Rekindle your presence through beauty and through love, and then that will grow, and that will be your new paradigm for life. You come out of despondency and into a lovingness, and that lovingness begins to expand. And then you realize the lovingness was always there and that it is the divine supply you're talking about. Luke the Crow, quite the perspective on an addiction. I never thought about that like that. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm glad it helped. All right, we have 2 minutes left. So I'm going to shift my body for a second. We gotta mute. All right, I'm going to give a little prayer and a closing prayer. Isono, I'm glad you're here. As we're about to close the live, you get to be here for the prayer. So we can all become present as best we can with whatever we're doing. If you can, close your eyes if you'd like, and join with me in this intention, this prayer. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all so much for joining me for this live stream and joining me with the community that we're building. If it weren't for you, we would not have a community that is growing each day. We are all a light unto the world by focusing on positivity and love rather than negativity and fear or hate. And through this effort, this good effort, we create a field of endless possibilities and opportunity for others to be enlightened, to be set alight, and discover the love that is available for them and the positivity that's available for them. So I have much, much gratitude for all of you and for this very moment and for God. Thank you so much. May you all experience real peace. May you all experience real happiness. I share my good merits with all of you so that you may witness the truth of your own being and be joyous. Amen. All right, right on the dot, 5:30. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you in the next video and eventually the next live stream. It was great to be with you.